Good evening. We've been given the go-ahead to start. My name is Gregory Lukow. I'm the chief of the Library of Congress's Motion Picture Broadcasting and Recorded Sound Division, which has the pleasure of occupying the Packard campus for audiovisual conservation, which is just up the road 45 miles from here in Culpeper, Virginia. I'll be introducing my colleague George Willeman, who works there with me in just a moment. And I just wanted to sort of set the scene for this night's film in the context of a special component of this year's Virginia Film Festival. The Packard campus, when people think of the Library of Congress, they think of wonderful old buildings in Washington, D.C. But actually, the libraries, all of the libraries' film, television, video, sound recording collections, something like over 5 million collection items, are all stored and acquired and preserved in a number of preservation laboratories that we have up in this facility in Culpeper, Virginia. You're going to be seeing an inside peek of the Packard campus here in the film tonight. And we have our own movie theater. It's a wonderful 205-seat theater, and we show free movies, open to the public, no charge. I repeat, free. 3 times a week, usually on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. Sometimes we'll do a Saturday matinee, which we're showing a Disney feature or some other kind of cartoon, kids-oriented program. The special component of this year's Virginia Film Festival, if you've seen your booklet, you'll know, is featuring the National Film Registry of the Library of Congress. This is, well, I'm not going to go into too much details because the film you're going to be watching here is going to explain what the National Film Registry is. But it's obviously a special selection of film selected by the Librarian of Congress, 25 films every year. It's a special subset of the 700,000 film collection items that we have, and another 700,000 television and video items, and the over 3 million sound recordings that we have stored up at the Packard campus. Our theater is focusing on the National Film Registry. Our theater in Culpeper is going to be, this month and next month, is showing all films that are on the National Film Registry. And here at the festival this weekend, on Saturday and Sunday, we'll be showing 5 films from the National Film Registry. National Velvet, Buster Keaton's The General, Humphrey Bogart and the Treasure of the Sierra Madre, Sissy Spacek, Live and in Person for Badlands, and McCabe and Mrs. Miller, the Western starring Warren Beatty and Julie Christie. I hope you'll come to those. They'll be hosted by Ben Mankiewicz of Turner Classic Movies, and I'm really grateful to the Virginia Film Festival for the special collaboration this year to be able to showcase the National Film Registry at the festival with Ben Mankiewicz and Turner Classic Movies doing a wonderful job of introducing them this weekend. Now at the Packard campus, as I said, this is a special subset of all of our collections up there. We are trying to acquire copies and preserve copies wherever possible of all the currently 550 films on the National Film Registry. Stay tuned, because in about 1 month we'll be adding 25 more, which is the 2011 selections to the National Film Registry. We announce them every year in late December, so we'll be back in the news again. And this film that we're about to watch is really a wonderful story of that collection of films, but it's more than that. It's a story of what the movies have meant to this nation. The registry was mandated by Congress as a group of films that are sort of the citizens' collection, if you will, the films that have been culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant to our nation's heritage. So I hope you enjoy the movie. I want to turn just for some concluding comments to my colleague George Willeman, who is the nitrate film vaults manager at the Packard campus in Culpeper, and who, as you will soon see, is one of the stars of the film you're about to see, the documentary that you're about to see, and who, as you will soon see, actually gave the name to the film in one of the sentences in the film that you're about to see. So I'll let George conclude, please.
Well, thank you all for coming tonight. It's a real pleasure to be able to see this. Oh, I guess we're starting. So real quick, yes.
No, take
it was okay. It was a great honor to be able to be part of this, and kind of a surprise. I didn't realize just how much of a part I was going to be of this. Especially when they finished the film and they called me up and said, "Can you come to Sundance?" I'm like, "Well, no, maybe, you know." So, but I got the chance to follow it around like a groupie this year, going to like the Cleveland Film Festival and Boston and now Virginia. You know, it's like here close to home. So I'm really, I hope you all enjoy it. I think you will. It is good and rewatchable because I've now seen it. I've lost track. I don't know how many times I've seen it. But if you like it, may I say that PBS Video is actually bringing it out on video and Blu-ray, which is really unusual. The two directors told me that PBS hardly ever does Blu-rays. It's coming out, November 22nd. And we'll actually have some extras on it, including a companion piece they made that talks more about the history of film and sort of more about why we're losing a lot of it. And then also, it'll be shown on the Independent Lens program on December 29th. So there's some more chances to see it. And I guess that's all I have to say right now. We will be having questions and answers directly following the film. So be thinking of some good ones. And sit back and enjoy these amazing shadows. Thank you.
We're open to any comments or questions you have. Yes, sir.
I'm just curious, up in Culpeper, what are you guys doing between film and digital? I mean, you digitizing old negatives, or what goes on up there?
Yes, we do. We divide our collections into various media types and formats. Some are appropriate for digital preservation, some are less appropriate. So our film lab is a hybrid. We remain committed to preserving film as film. We have built there probably the last great film preservation lab that will ever be built in this hemisphere. And we crank out lots of rolls of new films, copied from lots of rolls of old films. We also have a digital component for films that are too badly deteriorated where they won't go through sprocket-driven printing machines. The only way you can preserve them is to scan them, touch them up, restore them in the digital domain. We can still output them back to film. Right. If we want. On the other hand, all of our sound recording collections, all of our video collections are all direct to digital file. We digitize for preservation all of our sound and video and DVD, CD collections. We have a very large computer room that has about 10 petabytes of digital storage capacity. Yes, sir.
What about foreign language versions of American films, and what about foreign films themselves?
I'll just keep going. We're not so much interested in foreign language versions of American films, but we do collect a lot of foreign films. The mission of the Library of Congress is to collect and preserve a comprehensive collection of the world's knowledge and American creativity. The Library of Congress has field offices in Brazil, Egypt, Kenya, India, Pakistan, Indonesia, that are constantly on the lookout for relevant film, sound recording, television collections that are funneled to us. And of course, a lot of foreign films are submitted for copyright to the Library of Congress. One of our main ways of collecting kind of, if you will, a mint collection of current American creativity is through the ongoing U.S. copyright deposit system. So every movie that plays in the theater, we get a copy of it. All primetime television programming, we get a copy of it.
Without the ads.
Say it again?
Without the ads.
Yeah, but it's interesting. We get a lot of ads embedded within old copies of television programs, kinescopes in particular. We just got the Jess Oppenheimer collection. Jess Oppenheimer was the producer of I Love Lucy throughout the 50s and into the 60s, and he gave us his copies, the original versions of I Love Lucy with all the original ads embedded in the film prints. So.
And until those came out, I had no idea that every one of the episodes of I Love Lucy starts with a little animated sequence with the two caricatures of Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz and a big pack of Philip Morris cigarettes.
Yes.
I understand that some movies were made in English during the day and sometimes the same studio and costumes and different actors were used in the evening for Spanish versions of that same movie. Do you have the side by side of that?
It's ironic you should mention that because, as you were saying about foreign versions of American films, one of the major ones that we have is the Spanish version of Dracula. And it's true that it's the same sets, it's the same script. From what I understand, the actor Carlos, can't remember his last name right now, who plays Dracula, was actually wearing parts of Lugosi's costume and his hairpiece. And he was told to act like Lugosi, so he does in Spanish. Which actually kind of makes him the only kind of part of the movie. Everyone else is really great, and he's like someone playing Bela Lugosi playing Dracula. But if you get a chance to see it, and it is available, Universal has put it out as an extra on the regular Dracula DVD. It's great. I like it better than the Browning one because they got this great director, George Melford, who was no slouch as a director. He was an associate of DeMille's. Had been there forever. And they, Universal said, well, here, we're going to let you look at Todd Browning's dailies so you can do exactly the same thing. And being a director, I'm sure he looked at Browning's dailies and went, I can do better than that. So in every aspect of the film, he figures things out that Browning, for whatever reason, just could not. Like how to get Dracula out of his coffin without having to take the camera and go, oh, look, there's a window. Oh, look, Dracula's out of his casket. So if you have not seen the Spanish version of Dracula, highly recommend it.
Sean?
What about films that were never released theatrically, but were made for TV movies? Are those excluded, or how do you include those?
Do you mean on the registry or in our collections?
On the registry.
Yeah, no, we acquire them in the collections. We preserve them at the Packard campus. But generally, this is not a television registry. There have been some documentaries, or civil rights documentaries that are often associated in the mind with television, but they actually had a theatrical run. And we do that kind of research to make sure that there's some kind of, if not theatrical, I mean, obviously the home movie of Cologne or the Zapruder film, there are other home movies that we have on the collection. Those were not shown in theaters, but they were shot on film, they were shared, in the communities. Obviously the Zapruder film has been seen widely now. As long as it has that film origins, it's eligible. In the back here, sir. Yes.
Is the Packard campus open to visitors?
It is open to the public during our free screenings that I mentioned at the beginning. Thursday nights, Friday nights, usually Saturday nights, but sometimes Saturday matinees. Our calendar is on the library's website. So that's the one place where we open the doors to the public. We're not a Smithsonian type museum during the day. We're a working facility, so we don't have public tours or things like that. But we open up the doors for the screenings. And it's a lovely theater. Our benefactor, you may wonder, why is it called the Packard campus? Our benefactor was the Packard Humanities Institute, which is the private sector foundation that's headed by David Woodley Packard, who is the son of the David Packard of the Hewlett-Packard Computer Company. And back in the late 1980s, he bought and restored the only surviving movie palace in Palo Alto, California, the Stanford Theater. And he opened it up, and he's been showing classic movies there with great success ever since. A few years ago, he restored the only surviving movie palace in downtown San Jose, California, the former Fox California Theater, which is now a linchpin of their downtown development renaissance. So in the process, he gathered all these experts on classic movie theater design and furnishings and restoration, and he brought a whole range of experts, from the carpets to the walls to the chandeliers. What I'm saying is it's a beautiful theater, and our projection is really unmatched. I mean, anywhere between Culpeper and New York, I don't think you'll have a better setting for watching a classic movie in a really wonderful theatrical setting. So that's a way of saying, please come and experience it.
And it's free.
Yeah.
What's the best way for someone to go about seeing the movies that have been selected to the registry?
We're in the process of developing a website that will, a lot of the films that you saw here tonight are under copyright and are still held by rights holders. But a significant percentage, I'd say probably 30% or so, 30% or so, are actually films that are in the public domain, including films that were government-produced films, that there was no copyright, or early silent films. We're in the process of developing a website that will put up as much as possible of the rights-free films, and we're also trying to negotiate agreements with the rights holders, the studios or whoever, to at least get partial, clips from the films. A lot of them are, available in DVD and on television, but some of the more rarer items are frequently in the public domain, and we'd like to get them more up and out there.
You can also go up to the library's website, and there's a section devoted to the film registry, and they have the entire listing of everything, so you can just print it out and go over your video. What's a video store? Get on Amazon or something like that and say, here you go.
Yes?
Two questions. Do you have X-rated films like Behind the Green Door or something like that, which is really a classic as to depictions of what our society is? And
Yes.
the second question is, my mother was an actress in grade B movies, and I'm having a hard time finding her films, and I was wondering, is there a way to go to your establishment to see them?
Yeah. The second question first. Yes, you can contact our reference staff. They're actually located in the Madison Building in Washington, D.C. We have about 100 staff in Culpeper, but about 10 still maintain our reference centers, or the reading rooms, as the Library of Congress calls them. That's where you'd go to watch or listen to items from the collection. But they can answer that question. MPREF at loc.gov. If you want to email them at that address, they can answer remotely through email a question that you might have about whether we have an item in the collections.
I guess the addendum to the question is, I have some LPs of hers doing newsreel information of America for Australia, because she was Australian. And I would like to know if that would be something you would be interested in?
Contact them, tell them that I referred you to them. They will put you in touch with our curators in Culpeper to get more information about what you're interested in potentially donating.
And Hollywood photo stills?
There's potential interest there. I can't
Okay, great,
speak
thank
to
you.
it without the details, but there's an avenue for you to
There
make
is
that.
an avenue, or that's
Absolutely.
where to send it.
Yeah, and we're constantly, we get stuff through copyright, but we're constantly adding legacy acquisitions to the collections to fill in gaps. That's very important to us, from private collectors, studios, companies that go out of business, estates of creators, all the time. That's a part.
Terrific,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Now, your first question. Yes. There are pornographic films in the Library of Congress. Again, comprehensive collection of the world's knowledge and America's creativity. And we are this is always a punchline, we are the Library of Congress. And we collect, now that's no laughing matter. In the 1970s, Congress was intensely interested in pornography. We collect video games. For many years, we collect video games fairly comprehensively now at the Packard campus. But for many years, before we took over the selection responsibility, the library collected two kinds of video games. Those that were educational for young children, and the most violent, because it was felt that's what Congress would be most interested in.
Is Pac-Man your symbol?
The crossover, yes. I saw another hand over here, yes.
About the restoration part of it, I wondered, I work in a lab, and I was kind of surprised that you're just unrolling film with no gloves or anything like that.
Oh, he had gloves on.
Oh, there was one time when I don't have.
No, there was one when it was very damaged, and you had that on peeling it.
Right.
But then the other ones you were without gloves.
It's kind of in the nitrate area anyways, when you get to a certain level of handling, gloves just kind of get in the way.
Okay.
So, when we have new people come in, they wear gloves until you get comfortable with it, because I am proud to say that I'm coming up this coming May on my 28th year with Library of Congress. So I hope I know what I'm doing by now. But yeah, normally,
How
yeah.
it works, do you worry about fingerprints or oils
Yes, oh yeah, I'm very, very conscious of where the emulsion is, because you can touch the base and it won't burn into it, but if you touch that emulsion, you are permanently part of the film after that, so yes.
Yeah, I just don't know about the process, so I was curious about that.
Now, if I have something like those ones that are really nasty,
Yeah.
those I wear gloves because if they're starting to get powdery, that powder is very, very fine, it'll go right into your bloodstream, and you have the same reaction as if you had just taken a nitroglycerin pill.
Oh my God.
It makes all your blood vessels relax, and then you get this horrible headache. And from what I've heard, the only way to cure it is to take a cold bath and drink a vanilla milkshake, but I never have them handy, so you just go home and take a nap.
Greg, is there a film you'd like to see added to the National Registry?
Actually, yeah. I'm going to work on this one I'm sorry. Actually, yeah. We just had our Film Preservation Board meeting 2 weeks ago on October 17th, and a couple of us suddenly marveled that Howard Hawks' Rio Bravo was not on the National Film Registry. So that's sort of like my little crusade this year, is Howard Hawks' Rio Bravo. Now, we don't pick the films.
Right.
But we do advise the librarian, along with the public nominations, the board's nominations, and then the staff go take the board's nominations and make final 40 recommendations to the Librarian of Congress. But Dr. Billington, who is still the Librarian of Congress, he has the final statutory responsibility for selecting the films. Oh, boy. Yes, back there.
Was Thriller I know it was the first, but is it the only music video?
Yes, because it has that unique niche of qualifying as a film. It was actually shown, where was it, Disney?
Not Disney, but it did have a small theatrical release when it was.
Well, wasn't it, was that the one that was shown at Epcot Center?
No, it was Captain EO.
Oh, that was Captain EO, never mind. But it had a theatrical run. It was shot on film by John Landis, yeah. Another question behind.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering, do you think that television shows, especially as they're gaining so much respect now, will ever become part of it, or will that be a different thing, or just not?
We're talking about that. There is no National Television Preservation Board or Registry, but that's under advisement. Right now, it's not necessarily the right climate to ask Congress to create another separate entity like this. But I like your reference to, as television becomes more, as people get it over time, over the decades, it has the feel of a kind of important heritage legacy as well, that we hope that will come about.
So is this, is capture medium a large part of this? I mean, if a theatrical presentation was shot digitally, would it not be a candidate for?
Oh, yeah, it would, but not for 10 years.
Yeah, we haven't really had to face that yet, because obviously the latest film that would be eligible this year for 2011 would be a film made in 2001. And that's really just prior to the start of the advent of films shot all digital, projected all digital. So it'll be an interesting question that we'll have to face. Yes.
There was some footage there of a young lady who said she volunteered for a while at your campus
Yes.
before then she got a job. What are the qualifications you need to be a film preservationist, even at sort of the most basic level? Do you need to have education, or do you train?
Why don't you talk about your experience, and then I'll update them on where
Okay.
kind of the state of the education.
I actually went to Wright State University in Dayton, Ohio, and at that time the nitrate film collection was stored at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base right next door. And while I was going, I have a degree, I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Motion Picture Production, and while I was going there, my teacher said, "How would you like to inspect films for Library of Congress?" I'm like, well, I'm going to go from Dayton to DC every day, but no, they were over here. So I went over there. The whole plan was, I'd graduate from college, go out to Hollywood, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of it, at the end of my college time, the job I was looking at was going to work into full time, and my biggest interest has always been history and early film. I'm like, there's more than just a chance reason why I'm here. So, but most of what I learned, I actually either had learned prior to, as a child, my interest being old film, or learned on the job back in the vaults, digging in the coal. And that's probably one of the biggest things, is to be able to deal with the cold and the smell and the sticky, nasty film and that kind of thing. The glamour and excitement.
I, in some way similar to George, got my graduate degrees in film and television studies, history, criticism, theory at UCLA many years ago. But the field has changed since, and they didn't teach film archiving, film preservation back then. I was lucky UCLA had a film archive. You saw it. Bob Rosen was a mentor of mine for many years back when I was there. He was in the film. But in the last 15 years, there are a number of universities, including UCLA, NYU, University of Rochester, in collaboration with the George Eastman House up in Rochester, New York. Those three programs have established the first graduate level degree program specifically for moving image archiving in this country. And a lot of young people coming out of those are really entering the community of film archives. We're not the only one. There are a number of very large other film archives. We're the largest, but there are others out there, as well as regional and state historical societies and things like that. So it is, information era, this content, it's still being generated, if not film, then video, digital, multimedia, it's a still opening up world.
I just wondered if you had to have a PhD in chemistry.
No, you don't, although we do have a PhD chemist on staff. Yeah. There's a lot of different aspects to the work. Some are more curatorial, where you need to know the history, the legal issues involved. Some are more technical. We've hired a lot of people in Culpeper who have come from Los Angeles and New York, from post-production houses, film labs that have gone out of business. Being in rural Virginia has not been an impediment to hiring people. It may be partly of the economy, but I like to think it's because we do really special work in a very special place at the Packard campus.
I think I've been told that, so we may have time for one really quick one, if somebody has a really quick question. All right.
Or if not, thank you very much for, really quick.
I just wanted to thank you for the work you do. If it weren't for you, all these films that I've read about my whole life, I would never have been able to see, and I thank you.
Well, thank
Thank
you
you
for
for coming.
We appreciate it.